What a disaster for this Baltimore Ravens team. The Ravens suffer an unacceptable, inexcusable loss to the Cleveland Browns in week 8, 29-24, and they beat themselves while doing it. We talk about everything that happened and just where the Ravens go from here because changes and a look in the mirror are certainly needed. All that and more coming up next year on Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Oestreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for being here today, this afternoon, making Locked On Ravens both a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. Free and available as always, all podcasting platforms. You got video form on YouTube. Like and subscribe over there, also in audio form, where you can follow along for 5 days a week plus more daily Ravens coverage both ways, however you decide to watch or listen to the show. Today's post-game edition of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. My hair is a mess. It's from me pulling my hair out from this loss. Just unacceptable, inexcusable. Frankly, I'm pretty disgusted with this one, truth be told. I mean, you can't lose to the Browns. Can't do it, man. And I'm sitting here, I'm laughing, but it's not funny. Like, it's terrible. This team falls to 5-3, and it's not that they just lost to the Browns, right? I don't think it's just that. It's that they beat themselves. I mean, drops are the story of this game. And while it's not the be-all, end-all reason, look, there's certainly other reasons why Baltimore lost this game. The defensive, just everything was terrible. We're going to have a conversation about that. They couldn't stop anything. The offense, what a weird game from Todd Monken. Like, too cute on multiple different plays. And there are, like, usually in a game, there are like one or two plays where you can say, okay, that's the play that lost them the game, or that's where momentum turned. There were like 15 or 20 different plays in this game where that happened. And that cannot happen for a team that has Super Bowl aspirations, that wants to win the big one. You can't lose games like this to a team. Look, we all said it. Jameis Winston was a better option for the Browns than Deshaun Watson. That doesn't mean Jameis Winston all of a sudden should be looking like Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or Joe Burrow or even Lamar Jackson himself out there. And Lamar didn't have, the best game, but he did everything late that he could for the most part to try to go out there and win that game. So just frustration all around. I know it all starts on the defensive side of the ball, so we will start there, and we'll obviously get into everything else. And just a quick note here, because I will be perusing through social media as this live show goes on, which, by the way, we do go live after every single Ravens game, win, lose, or tie. So be sure to like and subscribe, video form and audio form. But John Harbaugh said that Marcus Williams, because obviously he did not play in this game, and had some I wouldn't call them very spicy comments, but had some level of spicy comments during the week about his role. He ended up not playing, and John Harbaugh said that was a personnel decision that will be kept internal. So I don't know what's going on with Marcus. We'll talk about his situation a little bit later, but what's going on with this Ravens secondary is they can't catch the ball. They can't do it, and it's costing them games. They're losing games because of it. They're putting themselves in bad situations. They're putting themselves in situations where, look, Kyle Hamilton has the game winning. Look, I've never seen, you can probably go back and find something, but in the moment, I've never seen a worse dropped interception, game on the line, next play, Jameis Winston dots it over the top to Cedric Tillman. Just inexcusable stuff. You have the game in your hands. And Kyle was the one that showed up for the majority of the game, but when it counted the most, he couldn't get it done. Eddie Jackson, I think, had one of the worst games we have ever seen from a Baltimore Ravens player in the history of this franchise. Multiple dropped interceptions, multiple blown coverages. This team needs help. If you've listened to the show here, I had been saying, all right, where are these guys going to play in the secondary? Are there really options? Well, now that Marcus Williams is apparently benched and apparently falling out of favor in the organization, we'll kind of see what that goes. And Eddie Jackson is horrible. Look, bring me Budda Baker, bring me Marshawn Lattimore, any secondary member, bring them into Baltimore because they need something. The pass rush is awful. The secondary is awful. Now, they didn't have Marlon Humphrey, didn't have Nate Wiggins, but that should not be an excuse for this game to happen. because the Browns didn't have guys either. And on the defensive side of the ball, the Browns lost a lot of guys as well. Now, the Ravens throughout the game also did lose Brent Urban and Michael Pierce, which hurt their defensive front. But where's Odafe Oweh? Where's Odafe Oweh? Brandon Stevens has not looked great these last couple of weeks. Not looked great. I see Anthony quickly saying Javon Holland from Miami. That could be a good one. That could be possible. But I just look, in Władysław, this is what I've been saying. The pass rush and the secondary are married together. Right now, they're going through a divorce. They don't want any part of each other. The pass rush isn't doing anything. The secondary isn't doing anything. And Jameis Winston in this game goes for over 330 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Honestly, should have been 5 interceptions the way he was throwing the ball, but you didn't capitalize. And here's what we're going to do. For those who have tuned into the show later in the week, obviously we do game preview episodes, game day episodes. I'm going to bring up my keys to the game for the Ravens that I laid out for this. I talked about it earlier this morning. I talked about it on Friday, Saturday. Here are the keys that I had. All right. Number 1, no Jameis Winston confidence. They let Jameis get going early, and he never really slowed up. They kept letting Jameis cook. Second of all, the secondary has to bounce back in that game, right? Number 1 goes in hand with number 2. It didn't happen. The secondary was terrible. And third, don't fall for the trap. Look, trap game, whatever you want to call it, Baltimore, it was such a disappointing game. Cleveland in this one, the rushing defense was fine. It wasn't great. 3.5 yards per carry is still fine. I mean, Donta Foreman was really the one that hurt them. But this is also just like, why are you sending the house? Like Zach Orr, this is a Zach Orr problem too, right? Zach Orr's not escaping this one, all right? We are now week 8. We're done with week 8. We are 2 months, not 1, we are 2 months into the NFL season. All right. First month of the year, you can kind of say, all right, these are some growing pains and, things can be worked out. You can work stuff out over the next month. We're in trend season now. Like, this is a trend. And until something fixes itself or it gets fixed, it's not going to get better. We knew Zach Orr coming into the season was inexperienced. All right. We get that. And look, I want to make this clear off the bat. Zach Orr's not the one out there dropping interceptions, okay? Zach Orr's not at fault for that, but at some point, the sloppiness does come back to the coaches, like we have been talking about with John Harbaugh in certain situations. That comes back to Zach Orr as well, where you got to have your guys ready, you got to have your guys prepared, and while Zach Orr is not physically out there dropping those interceptions, whether it's, you want to throw, okay, is it John Harbaugh, is it or whoever, the coaches have to have the guys ready and the players have to be ready too, all right? It's not just a one-way street. But you're seeing the inexperience of Zach Orr. And if you've been listening to me on this show, I have said countless times the second Zach Orr was hired, there's potential there. But for a team that's trying to win a Super Bowl, it's a bit risky to go the no play calling experience whatsoever route because you don't really have the opportunity to make a ton of mistakes and get away with that. Where you're trying to keep up with Pittsburgh in the division, who has the Mike Tomlin magic going, and the Chiefs are still undefeated. They're playing at the time of this recording right now. You can't do this. And Dean Pease comes in as the senior analyst, the advisor type for Zach Orr, and it's just not working. They're playing too soft. They're committing to the blitz. It's with Mike Macdonald. Here's the thing with Mike Macdonald that made him so good. With Mike Macdonald, it was calculated blitzes, it was calculated pressures, and everything just felt so calculated. Some of the Zach Orr stuff just seems like he's trying to throw stuff at a wall and seeing what sticks. That's fine for a team that's rebuilding. You can't do that here. But again, you can't drop interceptions, and this is not just a one-off thing. We have seen this. Nate Wiggins dropping picks, Darius Washington dropping picks, now Eddie Jackson, Kyle Hamilton, everybody. And it's not like these are contested, like, all right, let's go up there and it's just super hard contested interception. These are balls that are breadbasket picks. And that cannot happen. It can't happen because you are so close. Again, I mentioned there are about 15 or 20 plays you could point to that lost the Ravens this game. If just 1 or 2 of those goes your way, you win. It still is it's an ugly win, but you take an ugly win over whatever the heck this was. And even though all the issues are still kind of present, you win the game. And you have the 3 tiers of losses I go over every single show when we talk about stuff like this. AFC losses. The NFC Lamar has no problem with. You don't really care about those losses anyway in the grand scheme of things. AFC North divisional losses are the worst type you can have because Baltimore now falls to 1-1 in the division. They are now 5-3. And we can look back on this game possibly as oh, shoot. Like if they had just one less dropped interception, one less this, one less that, we're looking at a much different situation. And look, if these things happen in a win, you at least say, okay, they won, let's go correct it. It happens in a loss and you still have to correct it. Like the issues haven't gone away in the Ravens 5-game winning streak. That's the concern. But now it's actively costing you games. And man, Rebecca's saying worst defense in Ravens history. I don't know if I'd go that far, Rebecca. I hear your frustration. But look, we can be honest about one thing. This Ravens secondary is probably the worst in the league right now. This Ravens pass rush is playing like one of the worst in the league right now. I believe they had 1 sack on the day. If I'm not mistaken, I'm going to pull up those stats quickly here. I believe it was 1 sack. I think so. No. Oh, they had 3 sacks. Okay, wow. I was underselling them a little bit. All right, they had 3 sacks on the day. But Kieran mentioned it here. 5 dropped interceptions. And look, I am just dreading the dropped interception counter. I'm dreading the dropped interception counter, the dropped passes counter. They need to get it together quickly because here's what I said, right? First 8 weeks, that was a gauntlet of quarterbacks, right? That was a gauntlet of teams to play offensively for a young, inexperienced defensive coordinator. This is the 1-6 Cleveland Browns, who it's a new play caller. They almost handed you the game at the end of the first half with them in that awful play call that gave the Ravens back the ball. Shout out to Kyle Hamilton for that, not so much for the dropped interception. But they essentially almost handed you the game on a silver platter and you still fumbled it away. You have to take advantage of the mistakes that Cleveland makes. And while they did it there, the offense punched it in and scored a touchdown. Man, like this cannot, I don't even know if I have anything to demonstrate this with. I don't even think I do. But you have to be able to catch the football. Here we go. Hold on. Let me reach here. Ready for this? Here's how you catch a football. This is not a football, but look. You catch the ball. Ready? Catch it. Coming at you, catch it. All right. You can get spicy with the one hand. All right. You can get spicy with the other hand. Catch the football. All right. That's what you have to do if you are this Ravens defense. This is not a one-off thing. Like I said, this continues to go. And now with the trade deadline coming up in almost a week, you have a lot of looking in the mirror to do if you are this Baltimore Ravens team. Because again, while Zach Orr's not out there catching the passes or dropping the interceptions, it goes hand in hand because the play calling is not great right now. The players are not playing good right now. I just can't do it. And look, hey, you know what, Kieran? If the Ravens want to sign me up, they want to say, if I'm their big trade deadline acquisition, hey, man, put me in. I'm ready for it. But just so frustrating for a defense where the secondary is not supposed to be the issue. Not supposed to be the issue. It was supposed to be the pass rush. I'm like, okay, are they going to get enough from that unit? And while we saw the pass rush kind of turn it on early, Kyle Van Noy and doing that whole thing, it just hasn't been good. Yeah, David Ojabo will be a healthy scratch in this game, which just you can't have it happen. I can't believe we just witnessed what we witnessed. And now you have Jameis Winston going out there quoting Eminem in his post-game interview saying you only get one shot, do not miss a chance to blow. This opportunity lasts once in a lifetime. The Ravens gave Jameis Winston this power, by the way. All right. The Ravens gave Jameis Winston that power. So a lot of looking in the mirror to do for this Baltimore Ravens team. And look, I get it. And Francisco says it right here. The Ravens, they had no Marlon Humphrey. They had no Nate Wiggins, but that is not an excuse to make Jameis Winston look the way that he did in this game, particularly by not making him pay for all the bad throws that he made during the contest. So coming up in the second part of the show, we have lots to talk about. We'll move over to the offense a little bit, but of course, I can see where this is going. We're probably talking about defense for most of this one. So be sure to stay tuned. We have a lot to get to on this instant reaction edition of Locked On Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings. PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks, and PrizePicks is great. I love going on there, seeing everything they have to offer. You can add up to 100 times money on PrizePicks, well, as little as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts per projection of 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. PrizePicks is the best way to win real money this football season. What spreads going up? Which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on PrizePicks. So for this Ravens and Browns game, if you had more on the Jameis Winston passing yards, you're probably living large against that Ravens secondary over on PrizePicks. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDON NFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today. Use code LOCKEDON NFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. And the show is brought to you by Pre-Alcohol by Zbiotics. Pre-Alcohol Probiotic Drink by Zbiotics is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. Is this byproduct not dehydration? That's a blame for your rough next day. Pre-Alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make Zbiotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Here's how to use it. Step 1, drink Pre-Alcohol for best results. Make Pre-Alcohol your first drink of the night. Step 2, drink responsibly. Pace yourself, hydrate, and get a good night's sleep. Step 3, enjoy tomorrow. Wake up feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day. Go to Zbiotics.com/LockedOnNFL to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use LockedOnNFL at checkout. Zbiotics is backed with a 100% money back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to Zbiotics.com/LockedOnNFL. Use the code LockedOnNFL at checkout for 15% off. We are back. Our second segment here on Locked On Ravens, instantly reacting to the Ravens just blowing the game against the Cleveland Browns. Just terrible. You got a game where the Ravens had it literally in their hands, and they just cannot get the job done. And look, this is a situation where this Baltimore Ravens team, I mean, they need to be able to, one, close out games like this, win games like this, and just figure out what is going on with this defense. What's going on with this defense? But it's a tale of two, technically three sides, with special teams also being a factor. And look, I'll tell you, when it comes to the Ravens and the offensive side of the ball, Lamar Jackson, not his sharpest day, missed a couple of really, really big throws. He went 23 of 38, 289, 2 touchdowns. But man, let me tell you, he was putting the Superman cape on towards the end of this game and trying to will Baltimore to a victory. I thought on the second to last play of the game, he could have run and made it a lot more manageable of a shot at the end zone for the Ravens. That was a mistake, and I feel like he wishes he had that one back and definitely wanted a couple of throws back. But you have just drops again. Like Rashod Bateman has the ball just bounce off of his face mask. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? So I counted, look, visual from defense, I think 5 was the counter. Offensively, I think 3, if I'm not mistaken, right? So Lamar was fine. Like, it's not like Lamar played badly. Like, I'm not trying to say he played badly. He just missed on a couple of throws. And then the other part of it was, okay, well, then you have guys just like dropping the balls. And no, maybe it was 4. Could have been 4 drop passes, 3 or 4 drop passes. But you have Zay going 7 for 115, Isaiah going 4 for 47. Lamar made a couple of hero plays too. Like, Lamar was absolutely slinging that thing on a couple of throws. But man, you wish he had a couple of those back. He had a touchdown to Isaiah Likely. Ended up being a penalty anyway. The Browns had too many guys on the field. But man, yeah, here's what we'll talk about. Arnold, thank you for bringing this up. Todd Monken, what a weird game. What a weird game for Todd Monken. Wladyslav, I think you're saying this perfectly. Monken gets too cute on the offensive side of the ball. You want a tone setter? Here's a tone setter. Early in the game, the Ravens have that 4th and 1, right? It's the Derrick Henry Wildcat play, the play that Arnold just talked about right there. You take the ball out of Lamar Jackson's hands on that play. The whole reason this offense works the way it does is because Lamar Jackson is such a threat, because Lamar Jackson is so good at not only just doing his thing, not only just being Lamar Jackson, but in being Lamar Jackson, he is Lamar Jackson, which means there is gravity that goes towards his side of the field. And there's gravity that follows him. And so a Wildcat with Derrick Henry, you eliminate that. And defenses can say, oh, hold on. This is either going to be a run from Derrick Henry. Maybe he'll do his little jump pass. But you take the element of Lamar out. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? I don't understand. That tight end shovel pass to Isaiah Likely ended up actually making something out of it. But, man, I just don't get it. And Justin, yeah, trying to get cute on offense doesn't work in the AFC North. Pound the rock and play good defense. Now, unfortunately, the Ravens couldn't play good defense today. But, Justin, I hear you. That's exactly what has to happen. And then you have another situation where it's a 3rd and 1, I believe, right? 3rd and 1. And Charlie Kohler gets under center. and false starts. Like, why don't you just put Lamar there, put Patrick Ricard and Derrick Henry in the backfield and just get 1 yard? It's like a 99.99999 continued success rate. Why don't you just do it? There are plays like that offensively, defensively, that are just littered throughout. And it's so unfortunate. It's so unfortunate because you bring in Derrick Henry for a reason. And you're not using him in the ways that he can be perfectly effective in the days that you need him to, in the moments that you need it to. And Rashod Bateman just clarified his drop ball. He said that he saw the ball near the whole way on a second drop till the last second when he lost it in the sun. I mean, that ball literally hit him straight off of the face mask. So I just, man, you can't make this up. You cannot make this up. The Ravens had multiple opportunities to win this game. You know, Jameis Winston went out there and against the secondary that was terrible, he took advantage of it. He took advantage of those plays that the Ravens could not. And that, to me, is where this game was won and lost. Baltimore getting too cute, Baltimore making mistakes. Even Cleveland made mistakes. In the Ravens, you have a lot of opportunities. For example, when they when they gave the ball back to Baltimore before the end of the first half, and they score a touchdown, you're like, all right, you're feeling a little better about the game. What a mishap by Cleveland. And then all of a sudden, you can't. Aaron, this is essentially, Aaron sums it up. 300 passing yards from a third-string quarterback is completely embarrassing. You know, you can make, Patrick Mahomes, right? You face him. You face Josh Allen. You face Dak Prescott. You face Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels and Baker, right? Okay, that makes sense, right? You might struggle a little bit. This is Jameis Winston. There's no disrespect to Jameis Winston, but he's not on the level of those guys. He's not on the level of those guys. And Lamar, Aaron, another one. Lamar drove down the field 91 yards for a score, and you put the ball in your defense's hands. If I'm that Ravens offense, I'm trying to bleed that clock all the way down. I don't trust anything about my defense if I'm the Ravens there, right? Like, that's what it is. And here we go. Like a bunch, I see it all in the comments about the Ravens can't close games. The Ravens can't do this. The Ravens can't do that. It's 100% true. And that is what it is. And yeah, I just, the coordinator problem was apparent in this game, but the Ravens also didn't execute. All right. I'm not blaming it on one or the other. I'm blaming it on everything. All right. This was a whole loss for the Ravens, a team specific loss. Justin Tucker misses a field goal. You know, the special teams had penalties. Like, this was just all around a mistake-filled game in every single aspect. Every single aspect. And here we are. Visual. This is exactly what I'm saying. We're in week 8, still making errors on defense. We're 2 months into the season. You have to fix that. You have to, because guess what? Super Bowl contending teams don't make mistakes over and over and over again like that. Nobody's going to play perfect, all right? You might have a dropped interception here, maybe a bad play there, but there are so many plays you can point to, and it is just exhausting to even try to remember everything. I'm already like trying to process out some of that information. Like, I already cannot, I can't. Like, there were too many mistakes in this game where I'm just like, man, what are we doing in this game? So, a lot of poor coaching all across the board, a lot of poor execution all across the board. And coming up in the final part of the show, we're going to be getting into more just where the Ravens go from here and how do we even recover from a loss like this. So be sure to stay tuned for that. We have a lot coming up still on our instant reaction post-game edition of Locked On Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you have a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check the latest stats, like play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You're started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. So for the Ravens and Browns game, if you had Zay Flowers over on the receiving yards there, you're probably living large over on FanDuel, although the Ravens did end up losing the game. Just visit FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com. We are back, Locked On Ravens, instant reaction edition, final segment. Ravens lose 29-24. Just frustrating, disappointing, horrible, very bad day for the Baltimore Ravens. It was one of those days. It was one of those days. And now we're in a situation where, I feel like this is the fan base now, right? You know, how confident do you feel against the Broncos? Like, how confident do you feel? Let's play a couple of games here in the final part of the show. And again, we're doing this live, so we go live after every single Ravens game. We're a 5-day-a-week plus more daily Ravens podcast. We're coming up on 9,000 subscribers on YouTube, and we have a lot in audio form as well. Same show, both audio and video. But let's play a couple of games here live. And if you're watching after the fact or listening in audio form after the fact, you can play along as well. How confident are you next week against the Broncos? Scale of 1 to 10. 1 being not confident at all, 10 being you're as confident as ever. Let's start there. 1 being you're not confident, 10 being you're all the way confident. How confident are you that the Ravens can beat the Denver Broncos next week? I'm putting it at like a 5.5. Like, Denver's been playing decently good football. I think the Ravens will tighten it up a little bit, but I'm still not like overly confident. Like, I'm not overly confident. I shouldn't be. No one should be overly confident. Like, there's still some areas to clean up. If you're confident, I get it, but I'm kind of like in the middle, right? I'm kind of in the middle. I'm seeing a lot of 1s, a lot of 3s, got some 5s in there, got some 9s and 10s. We got some, hey, I like the confidence, but I just, it's tough to suffer a loss like this against a team. If it was the, if it was the Commanders, if it was the Bucks, if it was the Chiefs, if it was a team like that, you get it. But a Browns team that's 1-6 is just absolutely inexcusable. And Alex, maybe I'm going to give up 450 to Bo Nix. I hope not. Oh, I really hope not. That would be like, we're already on panic level 10 right now. We're like breaking the meter if 450 to Bo Nix ends up happening. But here's the other one in Zeus, kind of going right into what we were about to talk about. As I mentioned earlier, trade deadline coming up, right? About a week away for the trade deadline. Zeus says edge receiver DB. All needs for the Ravens. I agree. So we can play a couple of games merged into one. Who are players or positions that you want/need to see the Ravens acquire? Because we know that there are realistic targets, there are unrealistic targets. I had an episode on this that came out on Saturday. But who are some players that you feel like can help fix this? Who are some players that can maybe come in, maybe realistically, or maybe just dream targets that you feel like could have an impact? Edge rusher wise, I mean, I think you're looking at guys like Zadarius Smith, other options. I don't think, Max Crosby very adamantly not being traded is one of those. Unfortunately, I see Jadeveon Clowney is a name that I'm seeing in the chat right now. So, yeah. It's probably along the lines of a former Raven, maybe a Jadeveon Clowney, maybe a Zadarius Smith, maybe a Calais Campbell. So those are all players that could help on the defensive side of the ball. On the interior, secondary-wise, I'm seeing J.C. Horn, Marshawn Lattimore, Budda Baker. That could be someone. I see Javon Holland is another name. Preston Smith, by the way, is an outside linebacker. Could be something else or someone else that comes in and helps. Wide receiver-wise, again, it's going to be guys like Mike Williams, probably. Christian Kirk is a name that's getting a lot of hype right now. Deontay Johnson, maybe Adam Thielen, potentially. Like, that could be something. But you have to do something, I feel like. Like, it's so weird because the personnel, like with Marlon and Nate and all these guys out, like, yes, but that's no excuse. Again, and this is, by the way, not only is it Jameis Winston, it's a Browns team without Amari Cooper, because Amari Cooper is now in Buffalo. So, I mean, you're not facing off against this. Okay, well, there's an all-pro receiver there, and Amari Cooper. No, you let Cedric Tillman, Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore, David Njoku beat you. So to me, I'm looking at the defense. I'm looking at the secondary. I'm looking at the pass rush. You have to be able to do that. And kind of just perusing through Twitter right now and social media, trying to see the stuff that's being said is we continue here on this live edition of the show. I mean, let's look at the Browns receivers. Cedric Tillman, 7 for 99 and 2 touchdowns. Elijah Moore, 8 for 85. Jerry Jeudy, 5 for 79. David Njoku, 5 for 61 and a score. Like, how do you let that happen? It's almost like how do you let that happen in the Denver secondary call from 2012, 2013? It's like, how do you let that happen in the Ravens secondary? How does the Ravens secondary let that happen? You can't make it up. You absolutely cannot make it up. So now the Ravens are in a 5-3 situation. Still, it's a fine record, but could look a lot better. I see Kieran asking, why do we not give Tez Walker a chance? 6'3" receiver with speed. Yeah, I just don't know if they feel like he's ready right now. I feel like that type of player would really help this team. But, Zay's doing his thing. Rashod Bateman, really rough game from Rashod. 2 drops in this one. The Ravens didn't really get Derrick Henry going a ton either in this one. like they tried, but not really enough. He only had 11 carries in the game for 73 yards. Lamar had 8 for 46. But on the defensive side of the ball, it's like Kyle Hamilton and Eddie Jackson lead the team in tackles with 10, but that's because Eddie Jackson was in the vicinity of like every throw. They couldn't cover David Njoku. It's terrible. Like it's terrible. It's on everybody. You got to be better if you're Zach Gore. You got to be better for the Ravens defense. Got to be better for Todd Monken. Lamar has to hit on some of those throws too. But again, here's what we're talking about. Lamar Jackson, there are some throws that caused this loss, not all on Lamar. Lamar's very far down on the totem pole of the reason the Ravens lost this game. Like he's very far down on the totem pole. I'm not even like looking. You might have to accept like the cookies if we're having a list, accept the cookies on the page to see Lamar Jackson down there. There are so many other people and so many other things that contributed to this loss that are not Lamar Jackson. Because I've been seeing some of that on the timelines of like, oh, well, okay, Lamar lost in the game. That's not true. It's not true. Did some of Lamar's throws contribute? Sure. That's fair to say. Lamar didn't play a perfect game, right? We can say that. We can say that. But there are about 15 or 20 different things you put above Lamar on that totem pole in terms of why the Ravens lost this game. All right. I want to put that out there and make it very clear. So the Ravens have to have a look in the mirror here. I don't know what they do. I don't know how they fix this in terms of play calling. And that shifting philosophies might be one of them. Again, why are you blitzing late in that game? Just giving the short routes. The Browns had blitz beater plays. The Browns made blitz beater. Wow, say that 10 times fast. Blitz beater plays. Ravens are blitzing and giving the Browns those opportunities. So that is that is what happens. And exactly, here we go. Chef, I like this. Is Lamar out there covering Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore? No, he is not. No, he is not, right? That's one of the ways you can look at that. Did Marcus Williams play? No. Marcus Williams did not. And again, John Harbaugh said after the game that the Ravens that's a personnel decision and a personal thing that they will be keeping internal. So could be the end of the thing. And here's the thing about Zach Gore being, I've definitely seen this a lot in the chat about Zach Gore being demoted for next week. Realistically, Ravens won't take action until they get back to 500. Yeah, I'm not expecting a Zach Gore demotion personally, which again, the Ravens, they went through this. They were the ones that hired Zach Gore. They were the ones that figured out. And look, Zach Gore probably leaves if he doesn't get the Ravens DC job. The Ravens had to act very quickly when getting their DC situation in order because Mike McDonald left after just a few days after that loss. And, a lot of guys were leaving. But look, everybody understood that Zach Gore was not going to be ready right out of the gate. We're 2 months into the season now. We're not right out of the gate anymore, right? We are approaching the halfway point of the season. We're practically there, essentially. You got to be better halfway through the season. It's just true, right? No defense is going to be perfect. No defense is going to, give up no points or have no miscommunications or no this, no that. But guys have to catch footballs. Guys have to take advantage of bad throws and mistakes. And so the potential of Zach Gore was always there, but, banking on potential with a Super Bowl team is always tough. The Ravens decided to do it, take the risk. And so far, we have seen plenty of miscommunications and just poor play in general. Because, again, you got to catch these passes. You have to catch these passes. So, man, just a brutal game all the way around for the Ravens. Again, 29-24, the final score. Just look, hopefully, this was able to get a lot of frustration out for people. I know I was a little fired up in that first part of the show. But, look, they have to bounce back. They have no other option. This month stretch, starting with this week's going to tell me a lot about this team. Not off to a great start. Not off to a great start whatsoever. So back at it against Denver next week for this Ravens team. Hopefully they'll be able to get the job done. But that's all I have for you today on this instant reaction live edition of Locked On Ravens. On the way out, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube and follow along in audio form and subscribe over there as well for 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens coverage. Coming up tomorrow, we'll be back here 6 a.m. continuing to break down this Ravens loss to the Browns. Just talk about how they can move forward and get better from it and bounce back. So be sure to stay tuned. I'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On Ravens.